So can we bring up the Pearl Guide, please? Oh, wonderful, thank you. You can stay.
I'm leading.
You can stay.
Why should
He deserts me at the last moment. You see that, everybody? See how he deserted me? Thank you, Charles. I just want one other quick thing, because I think we're running probably a bit late. But I want one other quick thing. The differences, so that people understand the differences between... Yes?
Thank you. That's very important.
I thought you were coming back for your ice cream. No? The differences between the blue books and the guides, it's very important to understand that. The blue books, as we develop the blue books, are standards. And the wording used in the blue books are ISO standard language, such as when we say you shall do something, it means you have to do it. There's no option. Okay? Just as an example. We avoid all that type of terminology in the guides. The guides are strictly information, education. And so we try to put as much information in those guides as possible to help the industry through the questions they have about particular products. So with that stated, I'm going to give a very quick report on the Pearl Guide. I think many of you will already be aware that for several years now we've had a Pearl Guide online that was translated, I think, into about 5 different languages. And at the last Congress in Shanghai, we were ordered to update it. And in order to update it, we created a working group of volunteers that expanded over a period to update the guide. And what I'm going to show you now are a few snippets of the new guide. I can proceed. Yes, here we are. So the new guide is entitled Describing and Classifying Natural and Cultured Pearls, the Producing Mollusks, and Responsible Pearling. That's the new title for what was commonly called the Pearl Guide. I begin by saying that the draft of the original version was produced by the Paspali team, very nicely so. The natural pearl classification part of the guide was conceptualized in Bahrain, between the Pearl Commission and the original Pearl Testing Laboratory of Bahrain, and wonderfully worked on later by the Bahrain Institute of Pearls and Gemstones, DANAT. So just to acknowledge those two very important factors. This is the working group that have been working on the Pearl Guide. And it's a very long list. I'm not going to go through it, but you can see there's a lot of pearling experts on that list. We've met a lot on Zoom, etc. So all meetings have been via Zoom video. I must confess, after a while, it was mostly on email, simply because people had a lot of ideas and they wanted to put their ideas very fast. And so a lot of email messaging backwards and forwards to produce the new guide. Now, the old guide, I think, if I remember correctly, ran at about 56 pages. This new guide currently is 268 pages. And I say educational pages of illustrated pearl information is probably the best way of putting it. It covers all natural and cultured pearl producing present and historic bodies of water and the pearls produced. The table of contents that you saw in the first 2 guides that we spoke about. If you compare the table of contents here for the pearl one, it's huge. There's a lot of material in this guide. The guide describes and illustrates 43 pearl-producing saltwater nacreous and non-nacreous bivalves in alphabetical order. It also describes 23 pearl-producing saltwater nacreous and non-nacreous univalves. It's followed by 27 freshwater bivalves that are producers of nacreous and sometimes non-nacreous natural and cultured pearls, as well as blisters and crystal pearls. So it's quite extensive in its content. It starts off with some important facts concerning the items I've just mentioned. And it's illustrated here in a flow chart of natural pearls, saltwater, freshwater, cultured pearls, saltwater, freshwater. It addresses some terminology at the beginning that people openly use and maybe are not familiar with what these terms mean. Basra pearl, for example, I guarantee a lot of people that deal with pearls here talk about Basra pearls. And the problem is people think the pearls come from Basra, which is a little town in Kuwait. Where Basra is a very important town in terms of pearling, but it is a trading town. It's not a pearling town. So it's important to mention that. Oriental pearls, imitations of pearls. And then we go into environmental, social, economic scenarios with pearls, both natural and cultured, in fairly good detail. And we have included impact case studies, which we'll be talking about tomorrow morning in another panel. Impact case studies in Bahrain, Australia, Mexico, Philippines, China, Japan, French Polynesia, Indonesia, and Fiji. So we have impact case studies for these places. You know, when we hear about yesterday we heard a little bit. We've heard on other occasions as well about ESGs, et cetera. You never hear. Currently, we've not been hearing about impact case studies, and so it's a really good addition to this volume. We explain the differences between nacreous and non-nacreous, and then we go page after page after page. I'm just going to put out a few typical pages of different mollusks, pearl-producing mollusks, and how those pages are laid out, showing you images of the mollusk itself, or at least the shell, and the pearls that they produce. Just going to flick through a few of them because time is short, but you can get the idea of how this is laid out so that you can understand it. We also go into detail about the Pintada varieties, species, and there are a lot more than you think there are. One of my favorites there is Pintada maculata, up here on the left. Very small natural pearls, but they have a cuteness about them that I really like, maculata. Then Cassis madagascarensis, etc., the typical conch pearls that we talk about. Whoops. Let's flick through. Okay, so there's a lot of different. Now, I would question the audience here today how familiar they were with that selected group that I just brought out on screen. But I think when you actually see the finished product, you'll be fascinated by the immense variety of natural pearls that are available to you, in addition to the cultured pearls that we so commonly see. the classification of pearls. One emphasis here. In CIBJO, we do not have a classification system for natural or cultured pearls. And CIBJO does not specifically endorse one industry system over the other. For that reason, in this volume, we set out 5 different systems for you to know about and understand. But before that, we talk about what is pearl grading and what is pearl classification, which are 2 entirely different things. And as this is not a lecture, I won't go into it, but you can read it when you download this particular document from the site. 5 example classification systems. We have the DANAT system for natural. We have the GIA's 7 pearl value factors. The Pinctada Maxima by Caspari, the Accoya system. And I'm just displaying here a page from each: the natural, the GIA, the Pinctada Maxima, the Accoya, and the Chinese freshwater. I want to sort of really thank here our colleagues from NGTC, who have not only been wonderful in terms of the material that they've shared with us in terms of that Charles described in the Jade guide. They've also been equally generous in sharing their views and positions and images, etc., for their pearl classification system. Then we go through all the major Pinctada species in detail, giving fine detail of each of them. And we explain what Keshi is. It's a term that's bandied around by all sorts of things, but there are quite clear definitions of Keshi, and this document really covers it as it is realized in the modern sense. It also covers things like this, which are, if you like, the artistic approach to pearls, culture pearls. And we also discussed treatments and how they should be declared or not declared, and the various pearl processing scenarios. They're all listed in the guide. Definitions, hundreds of definitions. This now massive document, we say here, the launch is imminent. So it really is pretty much finished, and we will lean towards the boss for approval. And once we get that approval, the board, and hopefully the board will agree that this is a useful document and place it online. And naturally, given the time constraints and the volume of this document, what you've seen today is a very short snippet of what you will find in this new Pearl Guide. Thank you very much.